Hey everyone, so I previously mentioned that it's actually been pretty hard to play anti-meta in Go Battle League Ultra League for Season 2. However, that is no longer the case. I found a pretty anti-meta spicy pick team, so let's get into it and I'll show you some footage on how it works. So the team I've been running with is Swampert, Zangoose, and Obstagoon. And so I am bringing back Zangoose. It's been one of my favorite picks from Ultra League in past seasons, and I initially thought it wouldn't really work well, especially with Obstagoon and Escavalier in the meta these days. However, I've developed a really interesting strategy on how to make it work, and you'll see in the footage, there's actually quite a few times where I've almost soloed entire teams with just Zangoose alone. For the second move on Obstagoon, I've run both Cross Chop and Gunk Shot. There's definitely merits to both, but I think that Gunk Shot is a little bit better. This is mainly to give me additional counter for fairies. Okay, so getting to matchups, I'll go over some of the easier picks or easier matchups in general, just because it'll be a little more straightforward. So Giratina Origin, a really nice Pokemon to see in the opener because they have to switch out against Zangoose, and then usually they swap to Registeel because Registeel is really weak to Swampert if they have one, and a lot of Giratina Origin users I found have Registeel. And so this is really a bait game. However, it's very easy to bait at this point because you have such a big energy lead. Shadow Claw just generates energy really quickly, and Night Slash is very spammable. Even close combat, it's pretty quick to get to with Shadow Claws. So now I have a boost as well, and this is definitely gonna do quite a bit of damage against this Meganium. And then I could pretty much just farm it down with Shadow Claws at this point, shield this, and then potentially land a Night Slash on the Giratina. So this Zangoose alone has already done a ton of work. It pretty much almost one-shots a Giratina Origin. At this point, even with the Swampert, I should be fine. But I bring in the Obstagoon, and they pretty much quit after that. Obstagoon is probably even a harder counter to Giratina than Zangoose is. Okay, so again, Giratina Origin, they swap again to Registeel. A little bit lag, I think, on both ends. I'm going to bait with the Night Slash. I have two close combats ready, so I'm going to drop the second one. The close combat, they don't fall for the bait. Actually, I go for another Night Slash because I'm thinking they might shield here. And then unless they want to waste two shields really quickly, most people don't usually shield two charge moves back to back that much. Alright, so I'm already in a pretty decent spot, and they bring Cresselia. And because Cresselia is in the meta so often these days, it's actually pretty good for Zangoose. I get a boost actually too, so I'm going to stay in here. Mainly because the Psycho Cuts do very minimal damage to Zangoose. Before, when Armor Mewtwo in past seasons, and there's another boost too, when Armor Mewtwo was more prevalent in the meta, the confusions actually hurt quite a bit. So I'm going to get taken out by the Shadow Ball right here, but then I bring an Obstagoon and they don't have a chance against it, they're going to quit. So Giratina Altered, a little bit harder to deal with, especially when it's Dragon Breath, but most people will still swap out right away. And then right here, I'm going to throw the Night Slashes and do quite a bit of damage to the Cresselia. So what I was saying earlier is confusion damage from Armor Mewtwo actually does quite a bit to Zangoose because the psychic damage isn't resisted, but because Psycho Cut does so little damage, you don't really have to worry about that on Zangoose, and you can match up pretty well against Cresselia's. Much better than Armor Mewtwo in my opinion. Alright, so at this point, I think I'm probably just going to go for a farm down. I think, yeah, I might have forgotten attack drop, but it's okay. So a lot of people tend to probably shield this one, so I do drop the Night Slash right there, able to get a bait, and then land the close combat. And then now, this Dragon Breath Giratina is still going to struggle against the rest of my team. Yeah, the Zangoose actually almost takes out this entire team by itself too. And then they just quit because they realize that even with the Swampert, it's hard to deal with. So Obstagoon hasn't really even seen any action so far. But again, going into the Giratina Altered, they quickly switch into Registeel. Sometimes they bait, sometimes they don't. Just kind of depends on how I'm feeling at the moment. They go for a Flash Cannon, so I think I'm going to build up and go for another close combat. Let's see what they do right here. Do they go for it? So they don't shield, and then I'm just going to shield right here. Because my switch clock is almost up, it's actually not a bad idea at this point to just swap out. And so that's what I do right here, and then hopefully I can catch the Flash Cannon. Yeah, and the Obstagoon has a pretty solid matchup against Cresselia. The Moonblast will do about half of its health, so this will come pretty close to taking me out. I think I should be able to survive, and then The big thing here is Psycho Cut does so little damage because Obstagoon is pretty tanky and the Dark type resists Psychic type. So look at how much longer I'm surviving in, able to get another Night Slash off, even though I have like a sliver of health left. At this point, I'm kind of realizing that they're farming me down, but they smartly decided to drop a charge move because I was about to get to another one. And then I believe I just go in with the Zangoose. I should be able to survive the Dragon Claw with a little bit of health, and I'm just going to drop these Night Slashes. I should have 2 stacked up, and so that's going to do quite a bit of damage. And then I'll probably swap to my Swampert right after this. Oh, actually no, I'm just going to go for the Shadow Claws, and that's fine too. They're forced to throw the charge move, and then it is also a Shadow Claw variant, and so Zangoose does pretty well against the Shadow Claw variant Giratinas just because the normal typing is resisting that Ghost. Okay, yeah, and then I bring in Swampert, and then I know that even with Grass Knot I can survive with a little bit of health, so I'm just going to go for the farm down and then finish off the Registeel there. So that's a pretty meta line, something you see pretty often. This team does really good against meta lines, so that's why I'm showing you some of those first. I'll show you some of the trickier matchups and different matchups later on. So yeah, so Giratina right here leading into Swampert. Even Swampert as a counter switch is going to struggle against Zangoose, especially with shields up. So I'm going to shield right here because the Shadow Claw does so much damage for a fast move, especially on Zangoose because it's pretty attack heavy. I can just pretty much straight Shadow Claw down at this point. Now I have quite a bit of energy to force shields on my opponent. I have enough for both the Night Slash and Close Combat, so even if I draw the shield right there, and I get a boost too, actually this is pretty huge. This is going to do a ton of damage, and then they're forced to drop a charge move, but at this point I'm pretty far ahead. I still have my Obstagoon, so that could easily take care of the Giratina, and Dragon Breath is a little trickier, but with shields down, it's not going to do that much. Alright, so I'm going to, and this is actually Shadow Claw variant, so Shadow Claw variant is even worse, and Obstagoon is going to be able to take care of this pretty easily. And the good thing is Registeel didn't have any energy either, so best they can do is sack swap and catch a Night Slash, but even then I think it's a pretty uphill battle for this user. Yeah, so Shadow Claw Giratina is going to really struggle against this team because both Zangoose and Obstagoon is going to resist that ghost damage. Okay, so going into this matchup, again, I don't win the lead. They go into Poliwrath. Poliwrath's actually really good against my entire team. However, Zangoose could do quite a bit of damage if you land the close combat. So I'm just going to shield and see what happens. These mudshots do almost very little damage, so I'm not too worried about that. Counter users are a little bit trickier, but Poliwrath, because they have to rely on that dynamic punch, it's going to, yeah, they're going to have to rely on the charge moves. And landing that close combat right there, I was able to take out the Poliwrath, which is pretty awesome. And then I'm going to go for another close combat. That's probably force a shield for my opponent. That's fine. And then I'm going to bring in my Swampert. I'm going to let this go. It's going to be a Hydro Cannon. I'll be able to survive it. And I'm going to quickly switch in my Obstagoon. And luckily I was able to catch a charge move too. But I was going to switch in anyway just because the counters were going to do quite a bit of damage to the Empoleon. And because I knew they depleted their energy on my Swampert, I wasn't too worried about getting hit by a Hydro Cannon. But this puts me in an even better spot. So I don't really have to shield any of these because they're down both shields. And I could just keep matching this Giratina. I'm going to let this go as well. At this point, I could probably finish off the Empoleon with just Obstagoon. So what I'm going to do here is drop the Night Slash and then just go probably straight counter down and then shield Hydro Cannon if I need to. Probably won't be able to even get to that. And yeah, so we're going to take that out as well. Honestly, you're going to lose a lot of leads. And so this is a situation where I'm not, where I'm going against Registeels. A lot of people swap in Cresselia for some reason, which, I mean, I guess it makes sense against most teams, but with Zangoose, Zangoose really likes this matchup because, like I said, the charge moves, you could tank one of them, so I usually tank the first one. Future Sight hits a lot harder, but most people go for double Moonblast instead, or even a Grass Knot sometimes. But the big thing here is that Zangoose is able to generate this energy, and then you don't need to debuff yourself because you just throw out Night Slashes, so you don't have to worry about that. And also the Psycho Cut damage does very little. And so my opponent kind of makes a mistake there by shielding, thinking that they probably get to another charge move in time, but unfortunately they're not able to. And then now, shields down, I will just land straight close combat. And I'm going to let them feint down this Zangoose, and then I'm just going to bring my Swampert. It doesn't matter. It's going to be a Focus Blast, but I'm just going to let it go. They're even in Flash Cannon territory now, and then now I have Obstagoon, and And Obstagoon with those Night Slash is going to do quite a bit of damage to this Giratina. It is Dragon Breath, but with shields down, like I said, it's not a big deal. Shields up, it can be actually a little bit tricky, especially you don't get a boost. Even with the boost, as long as they have shields, it's not a big deal because the boosted counters aren't doing that much to Giratina. But yeah, this game is pretty much wrapped up from here. I just need to land one Night Slash. But as you can see, the Dragon Breath damage is actually doing a decent amount against this Obstagoon. The big thing here is you have two Pokemon that can have boost potential with Night Slashes, which is why it's a very like snowbally team. If you get the boost, you can really just take the whole game from there. Sometimes just Zangoose or even just Obstagoon sometimes. More often than not, it's Zangoose just because you can throw out the Night Slashes faster, and it's usually my safe swap, and that's usually when I start getting the boost. So like I said, Mewtwo is a little bit trickier. As you can see, that confusion damage just chunks away. Luckily, I got a boost here, but I think even without the boost, this would have been really close. I think I still would have been able to win it because I think they're a little bit slower. I got a second boost too, so that's 2 boosts. That's I think +4 attacks, so it's max boost attack, and one-shotting a Registeel, and then they quit the match with Giratina Origin. All right, Swampert lead. So the big thing with Swampert is if they have a Charmer or a Fairy in the back, it's really tricky. So what I do is I always land the first Hydro Cannon, and I think a lot of people kind of don't throw their Hydro Cannon right away, so that's why I'm able to land it. And then I go into Obstagoon to soak up the damage. You have to watch out for the Earthquake, because the Earthquake's going to put you kind of low. But you can tank 2 Hydro Cannons pretty comfortably, and the Mud Shots aren't going to do that much damage. So like I said, the Earthquake will take you out though. So this puts me in a slightly tricky spot. However, what I'm thinking is because they were kind of desperate to take out my Obstagoon, they probably didn't have a good Obstagoon counter, which means that they are probably weak to Zangoose as well. So my guess is that at this point, this player is probably running Giratina with a Psychic, potentially a Cresselia or Armor Mewtwo. More likely than not Cresselia, just because of it's more popular these days. All right, so I'm just gonna build up all this energy, and it's actually a Snorlax, which is a little bit surprising, but they do go for the shield, so that's pretty good because these licks are resisted, so they need to land a charge move even if I'm getting debuffed right here. But as you can see right there, able to pretty much one-shot with close combat. I think I had a boost right there, so that's why I was able to do that much. Cresselia lead. Run into a lot of Cresselia leads. So like I said, I usually lose the lead matchup every time here, and it's not terrible just because Zangoose actually operates really well on with the energy advantage. So as you can see right there, I beat Escavalier, which is a huge counter to pretty much Zangoose and Obstagoon. But if you land a bait right, or you land the right charge move, it could really swing a match, or force shields at the very least. So now I'm in a pretty good spot because I do want the Obstagoon against this Cresselia. I even get a boost, so that's pretty good. So these Night Slashes are going to do even more damage, and then they go in with the Registeel. I'm going to go for the Cross Chop right here. It's super effective, although without Stab and Cross Chop being just not the best move, it's not going to do nearly as much damage. So that's why I kind of just opt for a Night Slash at that point, because you at least get Stab and potentially another boost potential. But Cross Chop is, I think, slightly better against Registeel. Okay, so at this point, I know I could survive one Moonblast, so I'm just going to tank the Moonblast right here, and then as long as I get to pretty much 2 Night Slashes, I should be fine. Yeah, and I should be able to get to this next one before they get to Moonblast. And then wrap it up, but I still have a full health Swampert as well in the lead. Yeah, so I got another boost too. All right, so again, Cresselia leads are really common, and I don't mind them because I go straight Zangoose swap. It's very tempting to throw that Night Slash, but I just keep farming up that entry with Shadow Claw. And so as you can see, Obstagoon right here, not a great situation for me, but if I land one close combat, I should be fine. So because I was able to charge up to 2 really quickly because my opponent was a little bit slow on the switch, I'm going to take out the Obstagoon and completely flip that matchup and land a Night Slash and win switch advantage. So this is a pretty good situation for me. And the Cresselia is pretty low on health, so that means that I'm just gonna let this Moonblast go because I know. Oh, I guess I do shield it. But yeah, I'm in a pretty good spot at the moment too. So with both Obstagoon and Swampert, there's not much that is very weak to it. So at this point, I feel pretty good because this is going to be a hard counter for the Registeel. Let's see if they shield the Earthquake or not. They don't shield us, so this is pretty big. And then I'm going to go straight Hydro Cannon, and yeah, so this should do quite a bit. They do end up shielding, which is interesting. I don't know, I guess I would have put him in a tricky situation one way or another. This actually was an accident. I didn't mean to press Night Slash when I switched in, because clearly they didn't have energy. But like I said, I could still survive a Moonblast at this point, and then I'm just going to go straight for another Night Slash. But that was user error, not a recommended move I would do. Again, like I said, a lot of people bring Cresselia, so against Cresselia, I just go straight Zangoose. Some people are a little quicker to switch, but when you see that Registeel switch, it's pretty good, because it means that you have a lot of time to bait. It takes them a second to get to those charge moves, and you're only taking 1 damage per lock on. And I'm just gonna go double close combat, because I was able to build up quite a bit of energy. So now they are not able to pace to a second charge move in the time it takes me to do 3 close combats. I'm going to shield this at this point. I'm super debuffed, but now I quickly go for a swap. So I do swap in my Swampert. I think it might have been simultaneous, so I don't think it was intended. But the big thing here is it's actually not a bad situation, because Swampert's mainly good for the Registeel. Unless they're running a Charm Pokemon or Fairy in the back, I don't really need the Swampert anymore. And so between Zangoose and Obstagoon, I should be able to take care of most things in the back. Again, if they're running like, I don't know, Escavalier or something like that, that might not be great. But I'm going to throw my Zangoose here, because I'm not going to take super effective damage from the Moonblast, and then I'm just going to absorb that damage and then bring in the Obstagoon, you know, to throw on that extra pressure. And so now I have a full health Obstagoon, and then it's going to be Giratina, yeah, with Shadow Claw too, so this is really bad news for them. Pretty meta line, Cresselia, Registeel, and Giratina, but like I said, this team is really good at countering the meta. And so these first portion of videos is a lot of very meta teams, and that's what I see a lot of times. So I've been able to do pretty well with this team, and been able to make it work. The big thing really is you're using Zangoose to draw out any potential fairies, but if they don't have fairies on their team, then they're kind of in a tough spot. They do a great swap right there to absorb the charge move, but at this point I still have enough for a Night Slash, so I'm going to toss that and take care of this Giratina. Alright, and then one more Cresselia lead. Like I said, Escavalier is a little bit trickier. I can't remember if this line has Escavalier or not. Oh, Charizard. Okay, yeah, so again, Zangoose with energy is huge. That's why you never want to throw that charge move if you don't have to. Again, of course, if you go against a Togekiss, that's the time where you probably should have thrown the charge move, but there's no way you can predict that. I still prefer to risk it by not throwing the charge move against Cresselia and just farming it down, because usually they don't stay in that matchup. Alright, against Charizard, you can actually win this too. You would think it'd be kind of tricky, but Zangoose, like I said, hits so hard. I'm just going to go straight farm down at this point. I'm not even going to throw the Night Slash, and they now have a bunch of energy, and then they bring in the Swampert. So this is going to really chunk away at the Swampert, and then I'm going to throw another one. So this is actually be able to take out the Swampert. So Zangoose is already taking out both Charizard and Swampert. And then now I just got to deal with the Cresselia with both a Swampert and Obstagoon. And so what I'm going to do right here is I throw the Hydro Cannon because I'm anticipating potentially a debuff. But it's actually a Grass Knot. But because of that, I'm just going to go for double Hydro Cannon instead of going for the Earthquake. Earthquakes only make sense really if you know that you can't get to another Hydro Cannon time. But now I have Obstagoon, and Obstagoon can clean this up pretty easily. Like I said before, you could tank a Moonblast pretty comfortably. And then drop the Night Slash, and you're good. Yeah, team's a lot of fun to play. Whenever you get that boost, it's great, but even without the boost, you can do quite a bit of damage with this team. Alright, how do I deal with Charmers? Great question if you're asking that. So this is actually a situation where I don't know if they're trying to catch a Hydro Cannon or not, but it didn't work out. However, this is actually still a really bad situation for me, because I need to get rid of this Togekiss, and they, you know, they could pretty much sweep my entire team with just Togekiss alone. So I am a little bit of a situation here, even though Empoleon's already been taken out with one shot. I'm still in a really tough situation. So Zangoose is the best option, mainly because you can do neutral damage with the Shadow Claws. They do go for a quick swap with Muck, so this is actually okay of a situation. I do have Cross Chop in this variant of Obstagoon, which was one really bad against fairies, but much better against Alolan Mucks, because it is doing neutral damage instead of resisted with the Night Slasher. So in this situation, I guess it worked out okay. But if this is a Dark Pulse, I'm planning on just going straight farm down, and it is. Like I said, Obstagoon is very tanky, so I'm going to just go straight for that and then quickly farm up to a Night Slash and take it out the Togekiss with my Zangoose. And then that Muck has a little bit of health left, and we both simultaneously KO, but I still had the Obstagoon in the back, so I was able to win that one. So very tricky against Togekiss. You really want to match up your Swampert against it if possible, and luckily a lot of people do lead Togekiss to lead, so it's not terrible. And usually what I'll see happen is if I shield, they will often double shield. If they don't double shield, you're in a pretty good spot because they'll be within Shadow Claw range. But as you can see right here, if they don't double shield, they're probably gonna shield this. Yeah, they do. So whenever they shield, it's actually pretty tricky because it forces me to shield their charge move in case it's like a flamethrower or something. Even Ancient Power hurts Zangoose quite a bit because it's so glassy. But yeah, so I'm going to throw this Night Slash. It's resisted, but I'm going to do as much chip damage as I can because I really need to take out this Togekiss. Again, Escavalier, really bad for my team, so you think like, how's it even possible to win this? The good news is unless this is a Mega Horn, I should be okay. And, you know, that's going to do quite a bit of damage, but I'm going to throw the Night Slash right here, and then let's just see what they have in the back. Usually if they have those combination of Pokemon, they have something kind of weak in the back to Obstagoon and Zangoose, and it's a Snorlax. So Snorlax is actually okay. Obstagoon is very low on health, but it is taking resisted, so unless it's a superpower, I should be able to survive it. And then because it resists ghost damage by so much, it's pretty much doing nothing. I could finish it off. So yeah, so that's pretty much how I take out Togekiss in the lead. Granbull in the lead, another Charmer. I personally like dealing with Granbull a little bit more because it's not double resisting a lot of moves like close combat from Zangoose, and it's also a little bit glassier than Togekiss, so it can't handle charge moves nearly as well as Shadow Claws for that matter. So I am going to just keep spamming out these Hydro Cannons. There's really no reason for me to swap out here. I just need to hope that they don't shield and they let the Granbull go, so that's pretty good. And then I'm even able to get a Hydro Cannon off here, so I'm going to go for a quick swap. Or I guess I was, but I'm going to stay in there. I'm going to go in with the Obstagoon and just tank whatever charge move this is. Luckily it wasn't an Earthquake. Earthquake is tricky because then they could just land one Hydro Cannon and take you out, versus landing two Hydro Cannons, they need to land a third. So it's going to take them a little bit longer to get to. Yeah, and then I am going to let this go, and the main reason is because I'm just bringing my Zangoose right here and just farm down with Shadow Claws. I do have the shield right here, but I have quite a bit of energy lead, and they have no shields, and now I'm going to just throw the Shadow Claws. The main reason why I was comfortable with this is because they had Granbull in the front, which is definitely more of a counter to the Zangoose, Obstagoon types of picks, so I figured once that was out of the way, whatever they have in the back is kind of weak to Zangoose. Zangoose can really handle pretty much most of the meta pretty well. Giratina's, Registeel, Swampert, stuff like that. But yeah, I'll see with the Shadow Claw down from there, and then take out the Swampert there. Okay, Escavalier, also a pretty common pick. Actually very strong against the back line of this team, so what you really want to do here is stay in this matchup as long as you can and just shield everything. You know, it's even if the Drillburn's not going to kill you, you just want to shield it just because you want to preserve it in case they try to match shields. I was able to bait a shield here. What I really should have done is just charged up to an Earthquake, but surprisingly they double shielded because they could survive one Hydro Cannon. So what I should have done is actually charge up Earthquake and fake to Earthquake, but because they were shielding both Hydro Cannons, I'm able to land the Earthquake right there and take it out in one shot. Puts me in a pretty good spot, and I'm going to quickly go in and swap in my Obstagoon. Yeah, and mainly I just didn't want the Cresselia to farm too much energy, and who knows what they have in the back, so I kind of want to preserve my Swampert just in case. If they have a Fairy in the back, I really need it. So they are going to go for the Earthquake right here, and then unfortunately I think it's a CMP, or I pressed it a little bit too late, but it's not bad, because now I could get a little bit more energy with my Swampert, land an Earthquake. This will give my Zangoose a huge lead, and then they're going to have to throw a charge move anyway, and so they'll be depleted of pretty much most of their energy. And then now I can come in with Zangoose. Even Future Sight won't be enough to take me out, so I should be able to get to another Night Slash in time. Yeah, if they go Future Sight, you'll see kind of why. So they do go Future Sight. So as you can see right here, it actually makes more sense to go double Moonblast because they still have to throw another charge move anyway. So I was able to take him out right there. And yeah, again, another Escavalier lead. You gotta stay in. A good way to play this, and this is kind of, I think, later in my matches when I realized this, is charge up to Earthquake, throw the Hydro Cannon. If they shield the Hydro Cannon, go straight Earthquake next. They usually don't double shield that quickly, and so they think, oh, maybe it's another Hydro Cannon. Nope, Earthquake, you take them out. If they do shield it, then, you know, it's a little bit trickier. But I do go for a quick swap right here to Obstagoon. Luckily I do. Like I said, you usually have to swap to Zangoose or Obstagoon to really draw out their fairy. And so this does draw out their fairy, so I am just going to spam these Night Slashes because there's really not much else better to. If I had Gunk Shot on this when I was playing it at this time, then it'd be a little bit better. But unfortunately I didn't have that. They do shield, but I am able to get to another Hydro Cannon, which is pretty huge. And then now I can just Shadow Claw down and then go straight for the close combat. And still with the shield to spare, actually. So against a Escavalier lead with a Togekiss in the back, you can still win with this team. So even though there seems to be some big weaknesses to this team, honestly, it's worked out really well. The only kind of teams that are really hard to deal with are like double Charmer teams with Charizard. Yeah, that's probably one of the hardest teams to beat, and I don't think it's beatable with this team. But outside of that, a typical, you know, one Charmer or so with Escavalier with Obstagoon, even sometimes it can be easy to deal with. Okay, so Articuno is a little bit tricky. What I usually do is throw the Hydro Cannon, tank a Icy Wind, and swap to Obstagoon. And Obstagoon, because it's so tanky, I don't have to shield a second Icy Wind if they do choose to throw it. So I'm just going to spam away right here. I want to put this Swampert low enough so that I can farm it down with Zangoose. Because Zangoose with energy is going to do quite a bit of damage to Articuno. I don't really have a strict Articuno counter, so that's why I'm just going to bring in the Zangoose and try to dish out as much damage as I can. This Articuno, I think, had a little bit of energy, so they do come in with the Icy Wind right away. So I'm going to shield. Zangoose is a little bit glassy, and I'm going to throw the Hydro Cannon right here. So luckily they shield, because now they have this Mew, which is a very interesting pick. But I have energy on my Zangoose, and so I can finish off this Mew and then just drop a charge move on the Articuno and take it out. So I go quickly for a Night Slash, and because I know they spent their energy recently on me, they don't have enough for another Icy Wind, and then able to even get a few more Shadow Claws off and go straight for Close Combat. Close Combat is going to do neutral to Articuno, and it hits hard. It's really hard. As you can see, it took out almost half of Articuno's health with one shot, dealing with neutral. Again, in the lead, I just throw the flat Hydro Cannon. It's important to tank the Icy Wind so that you don't get your next mon debuffed, but you build up enough energy so you're close to another Hydro Cannon, and then you swap. So that's why I swap right here to Obstagoon. At this point, I'm running the Gunk Shot variant. But yeah, so they're going to Icy Wind me. I'm just going to throw Night Slashes. Hopefully I get a boost. If not, it's still chip damage against Articuno, which is always kind of a problem anyway. So, you know, no reason to hold off on that. So I'm going to just keep spamming away. As you can see, they do quite a bit of damage over time. They're staying in, which is interesting. So I'm thinking they must really be weak to Obstagoon for some reason, which, like I said, it's not a big deal for me because that means that there's probably a good matchup for Zangoose somewhere down the road. Alright, so I am going to bring in my Zangoose right here, and then two shield Zangoose against a Charizard, and then because I knew I had energy, I quickly swapped to the Swampert, take out this Charizard before they could swap out. So that's really big because that's pretty much a Charizard that didn't do much at all. But then now I have Swampert with a full health or nearly full health Zangoose with a 2-0 shield advantage. This is pretty much over. There's really nothing that Cresselia can do. The fast moves already do pretty much nothing against Zangoose, so this is not a big deal. Even if they bait me with 2 Grass Nods, it doesn't matter. There's no way they could really win this one at this point. I'm going to shield this anyway just to be safe, because the Future Sight would definitely put them pretty close to low, but they're running Moonblast, so that would have been fine. And then, yeah, able to take them out there. Alright, Obstagoon is actually a really tricky Pokemon because it's really good against Zangoose, and then the Mirror and Obstagoon is just not a comfortable matchup for anyone, really. So what I do right here is I tank the first Night Slash. They actually get a boost, so that's actually really bad. Usually I sometimes go for the Earthquake because if you land the Earthquake, you only need one Hydro Cannon, like I mentioned. But anytime they get a boost, just go straight Hydro Cannon, because at that point they're probably gonna double shield their Obstagoon because people feel very comfortable with it. So I'm going to go for this Hydro Cannon. Usually at this point, I go for my own swap into Obstagoon. Obviously, this is going to be a decent amount of damage to me, but, and I wasn't sure if they're running cross chop or not, but you definitely want shield just in case it is. But because I'm doing super effective damage as well to Obstagoon, I can take it out. And then they switch in their Registeel, which is interesting. But I did see the Cresselia for a second, so that means that Zangoose is a pretty good situation right there. So I'm going to bring in my Swampert. I don't want to go for the Earthquake in case I can't make it. And then this way I put the Registeel in semi-farmable territory. If I didn't land the Hydro Cannon, then it'd be really tricky because I kind of had to land a close combat instead. But now I just need to land one Night Slash towards the end of them almost having enough energy. And then, yeah, this is a interesting situation for me. I did get a boost, so that's pretty helpful. I think if I didn't get the boost, it'd be a little bit trickier. They go for Future Sight though, so like I said, I think Future Sight is not a great idea against Zangoose. However, at that health, it might have been okay. But it's just really hard to farm someone down with Psycho Cut. Alright, Melmetal. Another easier-ish lead for Swampert. Honestly, I think Registeel is a little bit easier because Melmetal can threaten Zangoose and Obstagoon with those superpowers, especially if they land them. Does quite a bit of damage to Obstagoon too. But kind of similar to Regi leads, a lot of people like to safe swap Cresselia against Swampert, and then so you just bring in the Zangoose. If they shield, then you start shielding, just mash that shield, and then yeah, and then just throw the Night Slash, see what happens right there. They might double shield. If they double shield, it's not terrible. Okay, they actually do a swap out, and if that's the case, I'm just gonna go straight close combat right here, and then I'm gonna throw my Swampert with energy into their Swampert. This is actually not the best play looking back on it. I think Obstagoon would have been a better play. I don't know. It's actually kind of tricky because Obstagoon, if I use it up right now, then they're going to bring the Melmetal in, and then the Cresselia can just wreak havoc on my Swampert, especially with the Grass Knot variant. So this is tricky. So luckily I have Cross Chop here, but they're going to go for back-to-back superpowers. What I need to do is drop a Charge Move right after the first one. So I was able to get to it knowing that I could survive the first one, and then I have enough energy for this Cresselia. So that's definitely cutting it close. Like I said, superpower is definitely a little bit trickier to deal with for Obstagoon because it takes a lot less time for Melmetal to get to it than Regi getting to Focus Blast. Okay, Gyarados lead. Gyarados is pretty glassy. Obviously Zangoose is as well, but these Night Slashes are no joke. So I'm going to go straight for the close combat right here, and let's see if I can land it. I do land it, so that's actually pretty solid. This means that I don't have to go for an Earthquake later. One Hydro Cannon should be fine on this Alolan Muck. However, I'm still in kind of a deficit right here because we're on even shields, and well, not even shields anymore at this point. I'm going to farm up a little bit more energy, but they have switch advantage too. So this Gyarados is probably going to come in, and I'm quickly swapping in my Obstagoon. I'm anticipating this might be a Hydro Pump, but I don't shield. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but I don't really like the fact of being down 1 shield to 2, or to 0 shields to 2. It's actually Snorlax, so it's actually pretty good. They need to land a Body Slam right here, so what I'm going to do is actually shield. And because these licks are doing so little damage, I'm able to just get so much damage off with this Obstagoon with just the Night Slash spams and the counters. And as you can see at this point, I put the Snorlax really low. Even though they have shields, I'm able to just build up to 2 Hydro Cannons and just throw them back to back. The big thing is if the Gyarados actually catches a Hydro Cannon, that's actually going to be kind of tricky. Yeah, I think they did. Or maybe I just threw it, but knowing that I could probably get to another one in time. Yeah, because I couldn't Mudshot the Gyarados down at that health range, I think. Alright, so yeah, so able to take out the Gyarados from there. Definitely a harder lead to play into. Lapras, also very hard lead, maybe even harder to be honest. Alright, so they swap in Gyarados. Gyarados, Dragon Breath does quite a bit of damage, but Zangoose as a safe swap is huge because that energy generation can flip so many matchups. Charizard, Gyarados even, and you're going to see why here. Unless they kind of commit to double shields. So let's see if this Gyarados commits to 2 shields or not, and if they do, they don't. So now I could just straight Shadow Claw down. This puts me in a good spot because I could potentially land a close combat on that Lapras. They smartly decided to throw a Charge Move right away. But now I have switch advantage. I'm able to lock in Obstagoon against Lapras. Very good matchup right there. What I could have done right there is actually probably thrown a Night Slash and then gone for the Hydro Cannon, or gone for my swap, because that'll make this more comfortable for win. But however, if I lose this matchup, it's actually not a big deal because then Swampert will be in farm down, counter farm down, and the Lapras won't be able to farm my Swampert. So they're able to farm me for a little bit of Ice Shards, but Obstagoon against Lapras is a pretty solid matchup. I'm just going to throw probably Night Slash at this point. Cross Chop, even though super effective, it's just not a great move, and so that's kind of why I TM'd it off and put on Gunk Shot later. Able to get a boost, so with the boost, it's pretty much definitely sealing the deal, but as you can see, it's super tanky. Even without the boost, this would have been an easy matchup. Alright, and let's take out Lapras right there. Snorlax lead. So, this is not too bad too. I kind of like this because they can't really threaten you with licks, and if they're slow to switch, you get quite a bit of energy. So I'm going to throw this Night Slash because I need to kind of weaken this Granbull to take it out anyway. Because I got the boost though, most people end up shielding after this. So they're going to shield, and then now I'm going to go for the close combat, which is going to be the heavier hitting move, even though both are resisted. Able to beat a Granbull with a Zangoose, and they spent a shield and I didn't, right? So just think about that. This is actually pretty ridiculous. Obviously I had the boost, so that helped a lot, but you know, you would think that a charm user would totally beat a normal type that has a dark and a fighting move, but not the case. All right, so Feraligatr is an interesting pick, probably the first one I've seen this season. Usually they're running Ice Vein, but this one's running Waterfall. And so able to actually finish off before it drops another charge move, and then yeah, this is pretty much a done deal. So I didn't shield the first one because I was thinking if it's a superpower, I should be able to survive it, and then it's going to be super weakened. So most people, even if they had superpower, wouldn't throw on the first one at that point because it'd be such a hard matchup for Snorlax after. So I figured it might have been a bait with Body Slam, or they're running like Earthquake with Body Slam, and at that point you want to use Body Slam. So I'm going to shield this for sure. And then take out the Snorlax. But yeah, very easy matchup for Obstagoon for the most part, unless shields are down and you're kind of low on health and they have superpower. Beserker, especially Beserker in the lead. Ooh, it's actually pretty easy to deal with, unfortunately. So if for any of my Beserker fans, unfortunately this line is going to hard counter Berserkers out there. So if I have the option to, I usually swap in Obstagoon against Charizard instead of Zangoose because they need to land a Hydro Pump to really take you out. So as you can see, they're trying to, but if they land a Crunch and you have a decent amount of health, it's really not a big deal. So you don't even need to shield it. And then in the time period throughout this matchup, you usually can get a boost as well. Because I had the boost, so I just want to maintain this advantage and just go straight counter down at this point. Have a bunch of energy left. So I have a decent amount of energy for pretty much the Berserker. Although I do have Swampert, so I'm not too worried. But the Foul Play is actually not able to take out the Obstagoon right here. So I'm able to land 2 Night Slashes. This is pretty ridiculous. Obviously I have a boost that does quite a bit of damage. But this Obstagoon just has already took out 2 Pokemon as is. I go in with the Swampert again to really soften up the Giratina and soak up any charge moves. And then right after they drop the charge move, that's when I bring in the Zangoose. This one's actually running Shadow Claw as well, so it's definitely going to be kind of an easier match. Yeah, able to finish it off right there. And there we go. Alright, Venusaur is actually a really tough Pokemon for this line. It pretty much counters everything on the line. So this is kind of just me showing how playing against a Venusaur is going to look. Obviously you don't want the Swampert matchup against it, but it's going to resist the counters from the Obstagoon, and then Obstagoon obviously can do neutral damage, but resisting the counters is actually pretty huge. And then it just hits really hard against Zangoose too. It's going to do quite a bit of damage, and then in Ultra League for Venusaur, it is much bulkier than the Great League variant, so it could tank a decent amount. Alright, so I'm in this matchup right here. So they let it go. I do get a boost, so that's pretty good. So I'm thinking I'm in a really great spot right now. And I still have the Swampert, so the Swampert should be fine. I'm going to throw in the Hydro Cannon before they can do anything, right? So this is going to be pretty interesting. They quickly go for a swap to Venusaur, so I'm thinking, oh, okay, 2 Shield Zangoose against a Venusaur with maybe a slight energy lead. Should be fine. you know, definitely would be fine maybe if I had a boost, but the boost percentage is only, I think, around 12.5%, so it's not that easy to hit. And as you can see right here, I actually can't beat this Venusaur, just barely missing it. And I'm going quickly for this charge move. Unfortunately, I can't get to it. So really well played by my opponent, but also just, you know, bringing a Venusaur in general against this line is usually going to be really hard to play around, especially if they lock in the Swampert, but they didn't even have to really lock in the Swampert. All right, Charizard. You would think that Charizard lead is actually pretty easy to play against, and you're not wrong if you thought that. However, why this line works so well for the most part is because you're losing the lead a lot and gaining up a lot of ground with Zangoose. And so because you're winning the lead pretty hard, they're going to be the first one to swap. And surprisingly, it's actually much harder to play when you're winning the lead sometimes, what I've noticed, than losing it. So let's just kind of see how this plays out. But like I said, it's not, yeah. So they do go for a really great swap right here. Let's see what they swapped in. Giratina. So this is actually kind of tricky because they have 2 shields to my 1, and it is a Dragon Breath variant too. So this is actually going to make the matchup a little bit harder. I am going to save my shield for the Charizard because that Blast Burn is going to hit a lot harder than these Dragon Claws are. And they're probably going to, yeah, that Charizard definitely has quite a bit of energy too. I'm going to try to land this last Night Slash, and hopefully I can land it. If not, in the shields. They do go for a shield right here. So I'm going to tank this Dragon Claw. It's going to do still less damage than a Blast Burn, so that's why I decided to save my shield right here. And they do go for the Blast Burn. I'm going to charge up a little extra energy, so I know that the Fire Spins aren't going to do too much. And then go for Earthquake here. I'm not too sure if a Hydro Cannon's in range or not, and I'm kind of scared I had to Mud Shot this thing down. With Dragon Breath, that's just not comfortable to do. But I was able to get to Earthquake and seal the deal. But as you can see, my Swampert actually has really low health at that point. That pretty much shows you kind of the power of the safe swap of Zangoose and how not winning the lead is often sometimes better for this team. So that's pretty much my line. It's been a ton of fun. It definitely takes quite a bit of finesse and getting used to kind of the energy management of Zangoose and just really trusting kind of how to use Zangoose in a lot of different situations. But I've highlighted Zangoose a lot in my past videos, so feel free to check those out if you're interested. I really was one of the first people to doubt that Zangoose has a place in Ultra League after Obstagoon and Escavalier have been popularized, but Zangoose, especially paired up with Obstagoon, is just a wrecking force. So if you have 100% Zangoose that's ready for Ultra League, definitely give it a shot. And a big thank you and shout out to all my patrons. They all got a sneak peek to this line. So if you've been seeing a few more Zangoose before you saw this video, that's probably why. If you'd like to be a patron as well, I'll link my Patreon down below. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like and share. Subscribe for future content. Hit that notification bell if you want to find out when my videos drop right away, so you can kind of get a heads up on the new anti-meta picks. And I'll see you all next time.